Hi everyone, Scott Pyre Pop Cult Fan here, and today I am reviewing the first episode of Season 2 of The Last of Us. Let's go ahead and get into this. This season, it's going to be an emotional ride. It's going to be an emotional wreck for a lot of fans of the show who don't know the games. Because there's people that know the games and know the show, but there's also people that know the show but don't know the games. So I'm gonna have to be not so spoilery in this video and vague. So best thing I could say is I love the cast. Once again, Bella Ramsey, I think she's great in her role. It's funny though because she still looks really young. She does not look 19 years old within the events of this new season. She still looks the same, even though her character of Ellie is supposed to be 19 years old, and it's just kind of, you know, I don't, I don't understand the criticism of Bella Ramsey's casting of Ellie. I don't. And I mean, yeah, she doesn't look like the character, but she's really good in the role. I love her charisma, her humor, and also all the puns. I love that. That's from the games, and they made that very well incorporated into the show. I love that. There was a really cool and funny pun in this episode, and I think also Pedro Pascal, once again, amazing as Joel, and even the new cast, I think a lot of them are really great in their roles too, and I have to give credit where credit is due in regards to the character of Dina and the actress playing her on the show, Isabella Merced. I really like the friendship between Dina and Ellie in this episode, and how it started to blossom and become something more by the end of the episode. That's all I'm going to say about that, but it was very sweet. And that's another thing in regards to this show and the games, as a whole franchise, because even though there's so much emotional drama going on, even though there's so much bad things that are happening, there's always moments of levity and hope within the story that helps it kind of be the calm before the storm, in a sense. There's this moment between Joel and Tommy's son earlier in this episode, which was very sweet, and it was a very hopeful moment, and I really liked it. And also near the end of the episode with Dina and Ellie, and that was also very sweet up until a certain point with a certain other character. But I like when there's moments of levity. It helps. And then, also when the episode starts, it starts with the character of Abby, and also it kind of picks up right after the events of the first season, and she is a very controversial character. I know the story of the game, so I know where her character is going. I know what's going to happen, but I like how they're doing the reveals within Abby's character early compared to how they did it in the game, and I understand why they're doing that. I think Caitlin Dever was great in this first episode. I'm curious what will be different. I already noticed a really big difference with Abby's character, and also, a new character that was added into the show that wasn't in the games was the Gail, Joel's therapist. And there's another moment with Joel's therapist, where you get these characters who kind of have a disdain for Joel because of a lot of the things that he's done. And if you played the games, and if you played and you watched the first season, the story of The Last of Us is very much like your actions have consequences and repercussions. The consequences and repercussions also have consequences and repercussions. So it's like this endless cycle of violence and anger and revenge, and that's what the story of The Last of Us is depicting throughout the games in the show. And I think that's really fascinating. It's one of the biggest themes that this franchise addresses, the constant cycle of violence and anger just doesn't have an end, and it's like a domino effect. I think that's what's really compelling about The Last of Us, in both mediums. It's really fascinating and drama heavy, and you care about the characters, and I love how they handle that with the first season and also the games. It's just very thought provoking, and that's what I love about this. That's what I love about this franchise. And yeah, I think also, there's a moment, like I said, with the therapist who. You can tell that she doesn't want to be doing this kind of therapy thing with Joel for a certain reason, and I'm not gonna say what that reason is, but it's like, maybe you need therapy, lady. But yeah, and it was a very solid first episode, and I can't wait for the rest of the season, even though I'm dreading some really emotional stuff coming up. And also, I think they're going to answer one criticism about the first season not having enough infected, and I definitely think that we're going to have a lot more infected in this season. And I'm also curious of the spores that were in the games that weren't in the first season. I'm glad to see that is going to be a part to play here. And also, one last thing before I end this off is that there's a moment in this episode with Ellie, and she kind of rebels against this group that's going out and finding some infected, and she goes into this kind of abandoned store with Dina, and there's a moment where Ellie falls through a collapsed hole in the store, and there's this really amazing, intense, and creepy moment for Ellie, because she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what's going on. There's this one infected that's in the room with her, and you can see it in the distance, just kind of crawling like this little creepy crawly, and it's a very tension build moment that also, where you could tell how scared Ellie was, because she didn't know what was going on. It was the first time she experienced an infected that was actually kind of intelligent and hiding and sneaking up on her, and that's really fascinating because it tells you that this infected cordyceps fungus disease is kind of evolving in a way, and they're becoming smarter creatures as they start to become more than just simple zombies. And that's a really fascinating thing. It was like that in the second game as well, and I love that moment in this episode. It was a really solid moment and really tension filled and kind of not necessarily jump scare heavy, but it's definitely something that felt very horror like, which I loved. So yeah, great first episode, loved it, can't wait for the rest of the season. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.